latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is delivered to you directly by yourwearablewords.com. Printed logoed hats, shirts, and more at yourwearablewords.com.
Now, from The Signature, a division of Esquire Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Welcome back. Jim and Jeannie here sitting in for Dan. Here's Michael Knowles on his podcast recently.
Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey signed a bill on Monday that would make Massachusetts now the 10th state to allow abortion up until the moment of birth. Big signing, this ghastly woman signing the bill, surrounded by all sorts of witches. There's applause at the end. Yay, yay, we can kill our babies now up until the moment of birth. It's particularly scandalous that this woman did it because she purports to be Catholic. Now, obviously, you cannot be a faithful Catholic and support abortion. You just can't do it. In our liberal age, we think that we can be anything.
All right. So, well, we're going to bring in Mary FioRito. She's the Cardinal Francis George Fellow, Ethics and Public Policy Center. And Mary, so here you have Governor Maura Healey signing this bill. Fake Catholic, in my opinion. And, of course, they talk about the 10 states that now allow abortion up to the point of birth. And they don't include Illinois. But that's not true. Illinois is in that category, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely, it is. In fact, your listeners can fact check me live if they'd like to and just Google third trimester abortion clinic, Chicago Tribune, and a story about a new, what they're advertising as all trimester abortion clinic has opened in Chicago. I think it was just about a year ago when they opened their doors. And then there's another one in downstate Illinois that's run by the same abortion provider. And they also do abortions through the duration of pregnancy. So while the law technically says there's a 24-week cutoff, the health exception, except if your life or health is at stake, and the health exception is so broad, it incorporates every single abortion you could possibly think of, any reason whatsoever. So that's why these clinics are able to advertise for their all-trimester abortions, because that's essentially what the law allows in Illinois.
Yeah, well, it just bothers me to no end that, Healey, speaking at a press conference, says today mothers and fathers and families who experience these devastating diagnoses, like that their baby's not going to survive or that there's some other fetal anomaly, they're devastating, they're heartbreaking, and now they'll be able to make their own choices. Yeah, this is nonsense. I had the same diagnosis, dude. I never aborted my baby.
Yeah.
He was baptized on my belly and went up to heaven. I mean, I hate it when they use this as an excuse.
Yes, it really is very ableist language, right? That because the child has a disability, that somehow makes that child disposable. And I have always been such a great admirer of you, Jeannie, for choosing life when you were given an adverse diagnosis for your little boy. And it is, of course, news that no parent wants to hear. But there's beautiful alternatives, even in states like Illinois here or at Columbia Hospital in New York, where there are extensive what they call perinatal palliative care programs. So if your child is going to be born with a life-limiting condition, they make everything available to you to help you through that time. There is emotional support for the mother and counseling for the mother and father together. The baby's needs are completely attended to, so no baby dies writhing in pain. No baby dies, unloved. Those children, if they're there for a few hours, a few minutes, a few days, all those children know is love. And there's pretty much no one that we know who could say all I ever knew in my life was love, but those children can.
Yeah. Mary, this is Jim Urio. Thanks for the work you do. So I'm unambiguously against abortion and believe it's evil. But I think that historically it's been somewhat of a losing issue for the Republicans because they can frame it as, old white men telling young women what they can and cannot do with their bodies. And there's some reality in that. I think there have been elections decided by that. But I think when we saw that signing, and for me, it struck me like a brick hitting me, just the evil and the demonic looks on their faces when they were cheering and smiling at the signing of this bill. Do you think from a political standpoint that there are people who might be in the middle of this issue and look at that and say, what in the heck is this about? I cannot be on their side. Or am I just being too hopeful?
Oh, no, not at all. And in fact, studies would back you up. Surveys would. There's actually, Jim, a lot more consensus on the issue of abortion than you might think, given how divisive it can be in our political discourse. I mean, the vast majority of Americans, when surveyed, do not approve of abortion after viability. And that's about 22 weeks. I have a nephew who was born at 22 weeks, 0 days at Loyola University Medical Center, and he turns 10 years old this week. Wow. So viability, this is what Sandra Day O'Connor Sandra Day O'Connor meant when she said Roe versus Wade is on a collision course with itself, because neonatology has advanced to the point where we're doing fetal surgery at 16 weeks to correct, disabilities, and viability itself is about 22 weeks, depending on the hospital where the baby is born. And then at the same time, we're expanding abortion well past viability, and certainly when unborn children are able to feel pain. But there's a lot of consensus, again, not only on third trimester abortions, on the partial birth abortion procedure, if everyone remembers that argument back in the day, that discourse, and then also sex selection abortions. Most Americans object to that.
But Mary, in California, some lawmakers propose, like even several hours after birth, you could choose to abort a child? And I know it didn't pass or anything, but I do remember reading something about that. I'm not crazy, right?
Oh, no, you're not. No, there were efforts to do, an assessment of a child, again, born either with a life-limiting condition or with a disability for an evaluation. And it sounds... It's ghoulish even to think about it.
Oh, my God.
Ghoulish. Thumbs up for this baby, thumbs down for that baby.
Yeah.
And I think, again, to go back to, this is also why the groups, supporting people with disabilities are so afraid of assisted suicide laws. And we've got that coming to Illinois next month, right? Because it targets people with disabilities. And this kind of, media coverage of children who are born with special needs and disabilities. I mean, Jim, some babies are born dying, and you do not have to kill a dying child. The thing to do is, as what Jeannie chose, love your child, be with your child, make sure your child has the medical care it needs for that short time so he or she is not in any kind of discomfort, and then allow the Lord to take that child back to himself.
Amen. And I'll tell you this, too. I have two severely special needs nephews who were born, I think 33 is how old they are now. They both live in Misericordia. And, at the time, I think there'd be many people like, what kind of life would they have? And I'll tell you what kind of life they had. They bring the joy and the fun to every party they go to. Everybody knows them at Misericordia. Hell, everybody knows them at most of the bars in Arlington Heights when they go to watch basketball games with their dad. And they make things fun. If you ever think that there's no need for these people, just hang out with the Uriel family for a while.
Well, let's just not forget, though, Maura Healey isn't the only one, along with her cackling women that were celebrating her signing this law. J.B. Pritzker's right there with them. Yeah. This is a clip of him where he's fighting for abortion.
Abortion is not a dirty word.
Yeah,
it's a medical procedure. And when we make something shameful to say, we make it shameful to do. It's none of our business if an abortion is rare as long as it's safe and legal. Let's be honest
We're
about
literally trying to make it shameful
here.
here.
To fight for when it comes to reproductive rights. I do not think that we should go back to a world where Roe v. Wade is the law of the land. With all due respect, Roe was great while it lasted, but it ultimately failed us. It didn't hold when we needed it the most. We need to pass a federal law that guarantees the right to an abortion. Full stop.
I mean, it's just disgusting. But let's remind people, as Marjorie Danson-Felser with SBA Pro-Life America highlighted, abortions done in the second and third trimesters are generally done by dismemberment of the baby. That's right. Inducing labor may result in a live birth. They don't care if the baby's already dismembered, it's going to die. And then also let's note that the United States remains one of only 8 countries worldwide that allows abortion at any point in pregnancy. And according to a 2024 study by the Charlotte Lozer Institute, 46 of 50 countries in Europe limit abortion after 15 weeks.
Yeah, that's
we're so out of the norm,
yeah.
Right? We're so out of the norm here, and we've got one of the most radical pro-abortion governors. And so, yeah.
Oh, no, Illinois is way outside the mainstream. And I find it very interesting that in the clip that you played there, that Governor Pritzker mentions abortion being safe, because in Illinois, in the main, we do not regularly inspect our abortion clinics. And in fact, in the news this week, in the Sun-Times on Sunday, was a story of a legal settlement being reached in a lawsuit against the Equity Clinic, which is near the University of Illinois in Champaign, where the plaintiff alleged that not only did the abortion provider perforate her uterus, he left a half of the fetus's remains inside her abdomen and then put her in a car and sent her back to Indiana. And the lawsuit, according to the news story, was settled in her favor. But she could have died. I mean, she could have very quickly developed sepsis. As it was, she was in so much pain. She called the abortion clinic, and the abortionist told her, just take a laxative and some Tylenol. And he had to have known. The baby was 22 weeks along. He had to have known he didn't have all of the fetal remains when he was completing her abortion. So anyway, I won't go into the gruesome details because everyone's probably...
Yeah, but he was he was only given a slap on the wrist, right? I mean, it means
Correct.
At least something happened, but he was only given a slap on the wrist. I think he's still operating right in the state of Illinois. And was the settlement disclosed
sure.
at all? What happened to him?
No, there's nothing disclosed in the settlement, but the Chicago Tribune, Jeannie, in fairness, that's often the case with personal injury lawsuits that both sides agree. Yeah. So, but in terms of, him continuing to practice, his clinic is very much open. I believe he was given a $5,000 fine and assigned, I think, 30 hours of continuing medical education, something like that. So, no, and when you have someone who is that reckless, allegedly, according to this lawsuit, there's never just one person who's injured by them. We saw this with the Kermit Gosnell case in Philadelphia. 3 women died before the state of Pennsylvania did anything about it. And in the grand jury report, which is well worth reading, the grand jury very explicitly says there was time after time after time when this man could have been stopped. But the inspectors looked the other way, the Department of Health looked the other way, and the abortion advocacy groups looked the other way.
This whole conversation is like, I'm literally nauseous thinking about it. I hope people are listening to this nonsense and become activated as well to fight against it. This is just, it's crazy to me how this is going on in what we consider ourselves a developed world. It's demonic.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. There's simply no reason. The standard of care, if there is an emergent issue with the mother later in pregnancy, the standard of care is delivery. The standard of care is not a later abortion. Late-term abortions take 3 days to complete because you have to insert laminaria into the cervix to forcibly open it, and then they have the procedure where, as Jeannie mentioned, the baby's dismembered. But that takes 3 days to do because the laminaria have to soften, so that's 24 hours, and then there's other procedures leading up to the main procedure of the abortion. So in an emergency, nobody waits 3 days. No. And what's so frustrating is that you have maternal fetal medicine doctors who deal with the sickest moms carrying the sickest babies and neonatologists saying that nobody waits 3 days. You deliver. And do all of those babies make it? No, not all of them do, but they all are given a chance. They all have a chance to live. And so this is to say that this is healthcare, to go to a freestanding for-profit clinic for a late-term surgical procedure, maybe close to a hospital, maybe not. I mean,
it's
we saw
unsafe.
that Yes, it's unsafe. It's unsafe. It's inherently unsafe because inserting sharp objects into the uterus is not good for either the woman.
Surprise!
They don't even have to have admitting privileges. They're outside of that. They're not like a surgical center where the doctors actually have to have admitting privileges in case there's a problem. They don't have to. They're given, at least in Illinois, they're waived off on all these laws. Okay, before we let you go, I just want to make this comment, though, too. Fox News reporting, a leading Catholic advocacy group, which is Catholic Vote, Brian Birch's group that he founded, he is now the ambassador to the Vatican. By the way, I've not heard if the Pope has weighed in on the Maura Healey signing this law, but Catholic Vote's calling for Massachusetts bishops to excommunicate Governor Maura Healey after she signed that legislation. Have you heard, has the Pope weighed in on this at all?
I have not heard. Today is Wednesday, which is the day that he typically has his audience in St. Peter's Square. So if there was going to be a media moment or opportunity, it probably would be today. So it would be uncommon for him to make a statement on his own. However, he might respond to a question about it from a reporter. So, and Pope Leo co-founded the pro-life group at Villanova University when he was a student there, and went to the March for Life every year when he was a student and then when he was a seminarian. So I know he feels very strongly about this issue. The thing with excommunication and Governor Healy in particular, canon law already calls for automatic excommunication for anyone who commits an abortion, performs an abortion, or is some way materially responsible for it. And I think you could argue that.
Whoops.
Nope. Did we lose her?
Did we lose her? We might have lost her. Well, that was Mary FioRito, Cardinal Francis George Fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center, and she joined us on the Alpha Wealth Group Answer Line.
And if you're listening, Mary, still, you're amazing. Thank you for the work that you do. Appreciate that.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr. Now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560. The Answer.
Your home or business has storm damage and you have an insurance claim.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters. Today, insurance companies are notorious for offering way too little money to repair damage to your home or commercial building due to wind, hail, tornado, floods, or fire. Crosscom works for you, not the insurance company. As licensed adjusters, Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout.
Call Crosscom.
630-871-5500. After they get you the fair insurance company result, Crosscom can start doing your repairs. Crosscom is a full construction and